Hey guys, this is Jon
and Austin
and Kurt,
and this is another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. So we have returning guests, maybe even possibly co-host at this point, Kurt Ratzlaff from BHA. Kurt used to be the president of the Kansas chapter of BHA.
Chair.
Czar. He
maybe?
has Czar.
I don't know.
That's very Russian. Yes, comrade. But Kurt has handed those responsibilities over and is focusing on legislation and some other things now to help keep more Kansas land available and help protect our wildlife. So,
yes, you heard
Come
that.
Come on,
we should
Jon.
probably address the elephant in the room. We had Big Al's Bash, which Big Al is a guy around here who does a lot for conservation. Every year, they started doing this thing. It was a birthday bash for his birthday, like BHA, Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, Ducks Unlimited, and would get together and throw basically like a banquet. And then they're like, all right, we're not going to do it on his birthday anymore, so it's just called the Big Al Bash now. And Walton's goes, we brought snack sticks, some equipment to show off, and we were right next to BHA. And the first thing I see when I show up is Kurt, and he immediately is like, you have to buy a raffle for our gun, which, I generally do that, but it's another shotgun, and I think I have 6 shotguns at this point, and I really don't do that much with shotguns other than sporting clay. I'll try and get turkey hunting once a year, and I go pheasant hunting like once or twice. But to nobody's surprise, well, Kurt made me buy another ticket later in the night.
Made you.
And
yeah,
that was the
made
ticket.
you.
Was it the second ticket
It
you
was
bought?
the second ticket.
Okay.
That one, my newest addition. It is a Winchester SX4 20 gauge, and it is a beautiful gun. It's got a really nice camo pattern to it. I very much like the color, and it's not a cheap gun.
No, it's not.
This is a fairly expensive gun that I have won here.
Yeah.
And that was the slide moving. Did that sound good? All right, maybe we need to make that part of the...
Did it sound good when it was below and he didn't mean to?
Somehow I must have hit the release. I don't know how I did that. But as you can see, it's unloaded and we've got the lock in, so we're fully safe here. But this is my first Winchester, so I'm anxious to get to shoot this, and I get to shoot it this weekend.
Yes, that's right. We've got a clay shoot coming up this weekend out at Michael Murphy's out in Augusta. It's Saturday afternoon, and it'll be a big time. We're going to have some raffles and prizes and stuff. We'll have a back sealer from Walton's. Thank you guys very much.
Yep.
That will be raffling off out there. So yeah, it ought to be a good time. Come on out and show Jon how to shoot his new gun. So.
Well, in general, we've done lots of shooting events before, and I am usually at the bottom end of all the Walton shooters. So Allie and I are actually going to this one, and we will see. Allie and I have a bet that I think we've settled on. We'll discuss that, but that's not why we brought you here.
But it sounds like fun to talk about.
It's definitely going to be fun to talk about. But okay, we've got the shooting event. Is there anything else you want to talk about that?
We've got a bunch of service projects
Okay.
that are coming up, and they're on our website and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. This time of year in March and April, in February, we do a ton of our service projects during that time of year. And so there's always stuff going on there. We just did one the morning of the Big Al Bash. I couldn't go down and do this service project, but the morning of the Big Al Bash, we had one down by Wellington. And did a service project down there working with Ducks Unlimited. I think maybe Pheasants Forever is going to get involved in that one as well.
Okay.
And so that's a really cool project. It's like Wellington gets their municipal water from their city lake. Their city lake gets, is that better?
Yep.
There we go. All right. Their city lake has blue-green algae problems every year. And that's caused from runoff, generally speaking. And there was a property that came up for sale upstream of the city lake. DU bought that with the thought of, and that property needed some attention. And so they bought it and are in the process of us cleaning it up, kind of, and they're doing a lot of it as well, a ton of it. But getting that thing kind of set up, to be a wetlands. It's in the walk-in hunting system already. It's going to become a really good duck hunting spot at some point in time in the future.
Okay.
And that marsh and wetlands area will also act as like a filter for the water going on downstream into the city lake to help clean that up.
That's
Makes better fishing, and it cleans up the municipal drinking water source.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't think
So
a
it's
lot of
pretty
people
cool.
understand about marshes and wetlands is part of their function is as a, I mean, for lack of a better term, a charcoal filter
Right.
for whatever's downstream. It grabs a bunch of the stuff you don't want in your water. And I've always heard, I have no idea if this is true, and you might not know, that specifically cattails are excellent filters.
I think I've heard that as well. Like
Yeah.
I'm no biologist. I mean, I avoided science at every opportunity, and so I am not a biologist, but I have heard that somewhere along the way. I think the cattails and like wetlands in general do a great job of trapping a lot of that stuff and getting it out of the water supply.
So even non-hunters, have interest in, or should have an interest in preservation of wetlands. It's a very important.
Yeah. The conservation of that stuff is just, I mean, it's important, in my humble opinion, for everybody. I mean, it is like no matter what you like to do outdoors, like it has something, it adds to that whole dynamic. It just does, whether you like to watch birds, whether you like to hunt birds, whether you like to look at plants. I mean, it brings a lot in, or it just gets folks outside to make them want to get outside just to check it out. So.
Well, Allie and I were looking at another service project, but I think it was up in Lawrence,
Mhm.
but it was another one of those cut down the trees ones, which obviously I get to use a chainsaw. That makes me happy.
And everybody else nervous.
No, I did. I was better than whoever. There was a BHA guy at the last one who was cutting down trees left and right who didn't need to be cut down. I was like,
Yeah, don't tell about me. Don't tell stories on me, man. What are you doing? Come on.
no, but that was a blast.
No.
I liked that.
And that project up there, I think, is also with DU. I can't remember for sure, but I think it is. It's also a property that's in the IWEHA program.
Okay.
The walk-in hunting thing where you have to check in and out and all that kind of stuff, which is really expanding like crazy, and gives all hunters like a really good, a different experience, I think, going out than just like a general walk-in hunting area.
It is you who told me once that we're like 49th out of 50 states for lack of public access.
That's
what is
correct.
that stat?
So we are 49th out of the 50 American states in the percentage of public lands. And I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I kind of want that stat revisited. We may be last now, because
Hawaii?
I think it was like Rhode Island that was 50th.
Okay.
Or Rhode Island or Delaware, something like that. And whatever state that is, recently like made the 10 feet back from the shoreline public.
Okay.
And that might be enough
To knock
to
them
knock,
in.
to knock us clear down to last. I don't know. But that's something that, in Kansas, everybody is really proud that we're a private land state, and that's what we are. There should be an understanding, though, that there's a flip side of that. That means that there's not much public access.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, with farmers and ranching being owning so much of the land, I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand, especially if I'm a rancher. Especially, I do not want someone on my land.
I get that. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel that way. I'll tell you though, and it's through the service projects really that I've learned this, which you guys are the official sponsor of. Thank you very much. Always appreciate that. But it's through those service projects that I've really learned that there's a fair number of land owners out there that see it as like a point of civic pride that they open up their lands to all hunters.
Mhm.
And I think that's very cool. I had really not, I guess I just really didn't think about it that much. But that point has been made to me by several of them. Like it's a point of civic pride for them. They allow anybody that wants to come onto their land to come on and hunt.
We've also got, in general, obviously you can't generalize like this, but I'm going to,
Because he's John. Right?
farmers are a huge part of their community.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
They want people in their community to have access to hunting, things like that. So
Right.
We talked about a long time ago, you had secured a good deal where you went onto someone's land, like, I will take care of all your cypress trees If you open
Cedar
up
trees.
cedar trees, if you
Yes.
open up the other half of it,
Yeah, that was
Did that work
was
out well?
It did.
Good.
It really did. Yeah. So that was an example of like we will do anything to get more land for hunters to hunt,
Okay.
basically, because it was a situation where there was a landowner that had basically, like, think of it as like two farms, one in one county, one in another county. There was one property that Wildlife and Parks really wanted and thought it was a great property to get into the walk-in hunting program. His other property is leased up by a TV show for deer hunting purposes.
Okay.
The guy that does TV was a little upset at the landowner because there was a bunch of locust trees starting to move in, and they're not really that great for anything for deer hunting purposes. And so I don't know who had the great idea, but somewhere along the line, the connection got made like, hey, what if we take these locust trees off of this property that's leased up for a TV show, and then you go ahead and put your land over here into the walk-in system? And the guy's like, yeah, that's enough of an incentive that I'll do that. And so then I think that was within Wildlife and Parks or somebody got that idea, and then they got a hold of us because locust trees are horrible to try. They're the ones with thorns about like this, right? And so we went in and got a crew of guys together and went in and got after those locust trees. And Wildlife and Parks, I think, had to go back in again later on. We knew that they would because more will pop up. But those are really hard to fight. And we went in and did that for a nice long day. And then the guy put his property in walk-in hunting. It's still there. And that time was a really fun time because I did the landowner did show up to work at the service project.
That's uncommon.
That does not happen. That's the only time that's ever happened, and it was great that I'm aware of. There may have been other ones, but that's the only time that because I was walking around out there cutting stuff down, and I'm looking at this guy that's out there with us, and I'm like, I don't know this guy, and I think I know everybody that's here, and so I went over and started talking to him, and it's the landowner, and he's out there.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was out there cutting stuff down too, and that was the fun project. I was driving home. I had just left. I was all cut up and scratched up and hot and sweaty and everything, and I'm driving down the highway, and I moved my hat. I was like, dang, what was that? And I reached back, and I had a locust thorn like in my scalp. It had just like gone, because you get poked all the time. Yeah, it's like it just never stops when you're in there with those. And I didn't even feel it. I didn't even know it was there. And I'm driving down the highway and I literally pulled out a thorn about that long.
That's crazy.
Out of my scalp.
Well, I think I've had a nail through my skull into my brain for years now. I think skin
that's
grows
not surprising,
over it.
is it?
No,
I get that.
What's going on? What's going on in legislation land?
Oh man, well, thankfully the session is about over.
Yeah. I know you've been spending an insane amount of time up there.
Yeah. A lot of time just trying to keep up with it. Like, that's not my world. I don't do well in it. I don't like it really that much.
Sure.
But I've got time. I'm retired. I can do it. But it's not something that I enjoy. But I do spend a lot of time just like on the BHA communication platform, basically just like trying to keep up with everything, because there was a lot of moving parts this year. And so just trying to keep everybody up on all of the different things. And then, I was up there, testified a couple of times, I think, introduced a bill for the first time in my life. That was a new one. Didn't happen, but we're probably going to try it again next year. It was actually an idea that was floated to me about 5 years ago, and I just wasn't smart enough. I didn't have enough experience with all this stuff to understand how good it was. And it finally, he brought it up again, let it rumble around in my brain for 3 or 4 years, and I'll finally figure it out, right? But it was a tax credit for land, like we're talking about the landowners and the walk-in hunting system and all that kind of stuff. It would be a tax credit for those who have their land in walk-in hunting and do some certain conservation projects as well. And so it would be, and it would be like, there's a lot of walk-in hunting stuff that's in CRP. It would be CRP type programs, but like the next level up of conservation stuff to get that tax credit, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so basically the way that tax credit would have worked was the let me get this right. I'm not a tax guy. So like the landowner would still go down and pay his property taxes on the property. But then if it's in walk-in hunting and it's in these conservation practices, then the part of his property taxes that affected gets to be a credit on his income tax, like a straight up credit.
Okay.
So if you pay $2,000, we'll say,
Sure,
yeah, $2,000 for property taxes, and you had half your land in walk-in and conservation projects, then you'd get like $1,000 credit.
Okay.
If you had half your land in that stuff, just something like that.
We should do that at the new building. Just allow walk-in hunting access.
If we could, I would. There's already enough. We're right too close to the airport and all the restrictions with that. If we were walking around with guns, I'm sure someone would come out and have an issue with it.
You guys don't walk around with guns all the time? I mean, John.
Yeah,
does.
no, no.
I guess walk around and actively shooting.
Right.
There you go.
I was driving by the other day, must have been a week or two ago. I saw two pretty good sized deer run right across the road right in front of us. And we've got that cornfield just to the north of us.
Yeah. Well, there was that elk that was out there by the airport.
Oh, don't
this
talk to me.
year,
I'm
right?
still angry about that.
Ah,
That was
whatever.
on I landed in, I was going to Austin. I landed in Houston, and my buddy who's a cop sent me a picture. He's like, "Where are you at?" I was like, "What are you talking? Where is?" I'm like, that's my Cabela's in the background."
Yeah.
And it went right up my road.
Yeah.
I told him, I was talking to him a couple of weeks later. I was like, that would have been a "it's coming right for me" situation. Like, I don't get, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really poach.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that tax credit bill did not happen this year.
Okay.
Like I said, this is not my world.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that I really don't want to know, but I'm learning it.
Usually fails a time or two.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we're going to work out a couple of kinks ahead of time next time and come back because there was another part of the bill as well, and that was the part that kind of snagged things up.
Okay.
So because everybody, I think, was generally in favor of what we were talking about. You know, another way to encourage conservation and hunting at the same time. You know, and the folks that will encourage that, maybe they ought to get a little bit of a break. You know, I think that's acceptable.
It's awesome.
I think one of the easiest ways to fix a lot of what's going on would just be single issue bills.
Yeah.
Like no more combining multiple issues on a bill, because that's how you get like stuff that nobody wants passed. Well, you know, that I wouldn't want passed. I wouldn't vote for anyone who voted to pass that passed.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot less stuff would get passed.
Good.
It's so complicated. I can't tell you guys how complicated all that is.
What about the corners or corner crossing? Thank you.
Corner crossing.
Yeah, corner crossing. That was a pretty big victory for BHA.
That was huge.
Yeah,
that was huge. And we had an event where Ryan Callahan, the
real quick, do you want to explain, because we explained corner crossing. I think we did an okay job, but do you want to?
Okay, yeah. So corner crossing. If you look in a lot of Western states in particular, on their public lands, if you look at it like in a big scale thing, it almost looks like a checkerboard. And that locked up. The previous thinking was that locked up a lot of those places because there was no public access to them. There's like not a road to them. And so at the point, and so it locked up a lot of that, and then the public was locked out of our own public land that we could not reach. And so, but there's also the interests of the landowners that own the other parts of the checkerboard that aren't the public part. And so it's like, it's a situation. And so the question was whether you could cross at those corners, think of the checkerboard, like where the corners all meet. Like, can you step from this piece of public land to that piece of public land without trespassing on the two privately owned pieces on the other side of the corner? And so can you do that without trespassing? That was the crux of the issue, I think. And so there was actually some guys from Missouri, and I'm going to try to get all the facts here right. I'll probably screw up some piece of it, but like generally speaking, they had hunted this area before, and there was a part of what area that they wanted to hunt that they weren't sure that they could.
Okay.
One of them was a metal worker, messed around with metal, and they built a ladder that would go up, across, and down. And so their feet left
And never actually touched.
public land.
Yeah.
They walked across the ladder and then came down on the other side on public land. One of the, I don't know whether there was 2 landowners or 1 there. I don't know. I don't remember that part of the deal. But at least one of the landowners objected and said that encroached upon the airspace of his property.
Right.
And so there was a big uproar over it. They got arrested and all kinds of stuff. And they had trials.
How many steps are we talking here? Because in my mind, it's a checkerboard pattern. I raise my foot here, I put it down in public land. I never actually step on.
Yeah. There's some fun videos that BHA put out.
Of people doing that.
Of like, is my butt cheek trespassing?
Yeah,
It's like, what part of me is trespassing? But it's like, yeah, if you think about how small is a land boundary, between you and your neighbor's house.
Mhm.
Like, where's the line? Like, well, it's right in here someplace. Well, how small is it?
So even
it really doesn't exist, but it does as a legal fiction, right? I mean, there's a lot of times there's just dirt there.
And honestly, very little of this is possible without Onyx.
Oh,
right.
absolutely, 100%.
What else are you doing then? Looking at a county map?
Yeah, because I like, again, I'm an old dinosaur. Like, I used to carry around like county maps with me.
You would?
Yeah. And you'd have to just like figure out where you were at and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean,
My type of
Onyx is the one that makes this possible, and they're doing a great job of helping in a lot of ways
they're
with that.
phenomenal company.
Amazing. Yeah.
My type of hunting is easier than your hunting. I go with somebody who's already hunted there, and they tell me exactly where to go, what to do, what I can do, and can't do, and it's just much easier.
Yeah.
It's not maybe as exciting, but it's easier.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, but it's just, I mean, I think a lot of it was just the thought that that's like land that belongs to all of us.
Right.
The only reason that I'm not hunting there is this thing that says that I can't corner cross. How legal is that? And so at this point, it has now gone through, I believe, all of the legal channels, and it is now legal to corner cross.
Okay.
There's stuff you got to do, all that kind of stuff. I'm not really up to date on that, but I know that BHA is coming out with some T-shirts that says "Corner Crossing is not a crime."
There you go.
Yeah, so,
awesome.
Yeah, you guys are good at doing stuff like that.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So so that was a big deal. And what I was starting to say was Kansans actually should feel a little bit of pride in this. We're not really in that whole corner crossing situation.
Yeah.
But one of our former board members, Jeff Hancock, had this great idea to start what ended up being called the Bully Pulpit Fund, and all of the various state chapters could kick in a little bit of money to this fund that was held to be used when there was a big issue that maybe a state chapter wouldn't have the cash to go after. And he started that, I want to say maybe the year before the whole corner crossing thing started. And that was like the seed money that they started that fight with, to some degree. And so I just think it's cool that and that was a deal that all of BHA got behind. And it was a good thing.
Do you think it gets correctly adjudicated without BHA?
BHA was huge.
Okay. So
I mean, BHA took there was a lot of parts.
So there's a big
went
feather
into
in
that.
your guys' cap.
It was yeah. We did a ton of work on that.
Cool.
We for sure did that because that's our public lands, and we're a public lands organization.
Yep.
So it's a great deal right now. We'll see where it goes. And if it continues, we'll see. Everything moves. But we'll see. Hopefully it stays that way. But at this moment, you can corner cross. You do it appropriately.
There you go. Any other legislation stuff you want to talk about?
There's been a lot of stuff. Most of the things that we were following along with this year didn't happen. Some of that was good. Some of it was bad. But there's a lot of stuff that didn't happen that we were following. So
okay.
Yeah, really, that's about it.
Well, cool. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate the gun.
Oh.
I will shoot it well for you.
I doubt that.
I doubt that too.
I'm not
I'll shoot it well on Saturday. I will at least have fun with it.
Okay.
All right. You're the man.
Sounds good.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Kurt.
So in other news, they're using bee venom to fight breast cancer.
So how'd we figure that out?
I mean, I didn't figure anything out. I read an article then that the biggest takeaway from it is that Turkish bees are better at it than Georgian bees.
How
Yep.
did we-
Yep.
Okay, so the question continues. How did we figure this out?
Somebody over in, I think it was Israel, was noticing or was paying attention to bee venom stings and how they're using it now to cure like Lyme disease and other things. And they isolated a specific, that's not enzyme's the wrong word, but something in bee venom. Then they tried like doing tests, obviously I would imagine in a test tube or something, and see how it attacked cancer cells. And apparently it does a fairly good job.
That's insane. It's like, I don't know. I think about things like that at times of like, how do we have the things we have? I was driving to work this morning and like just was like playing a video on my phone that I got on an email. And I'm like, this is so insane. Like,
Yeah, just the technology.
Completely nuts.
while I'm driving, it was a video from China over a telescoping conveyor that we're having sent over.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is nuts. It's just magically sent over the ocean through the air or through a cable, and it shows up on my phone.
Well,
But how we get that, how we find out that bee venom fights cancer, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people in the world that I think are just smarter than me. I
Oh.
think is kind of what it gets to is I don't understand any of these things,
you
but
know,
someone does.
Shark bites can actually cure restless leg syndrome.
no. What?
It just cuts it
Oh,
off.
it takes no, but then it causes phantom pain syndrome.
Oh, then
or
it's,
phantom
so
limb
you're
syndrome.
replacing one with the other.
I need to look this up because I saw a quick. They're tricking the human body into thinking cancer cells are pork. I swear. Or I had a really vivid dream. Yep. New cancer cure disguises tumors as pork to trigger an
What?
immune attack. So do you know, I think the reason they chose pork on this, they have that whole breed of pigs that they use specifically for heart transplants, things like that.
Yeah.
They give them immunosuppressive drugs so that your body doesn't reject it. So I think from that, they looked at it and were like, okay, well, your immune system attacks pork. So if we trick your body into thinking that that cancer cell is pork, your immune system is going to attack it.
That's just insane.
Isn't it?
It's really cool, but still it's insane.
That sounds awesome.
No, does it? No. I guess cancer is just the accelerated replication of cells. Right? Yeah, that's cancer.
Like non-aging cells, like
Well, I think it's just like, when you cut yourself, new skin cells are formed.
Oh.
Cancer is just generally, this is a very layman's understanding.
Yeah,
by
a
the way.
disease resulting from uncontrolled growth and division of abnormal cells.
Yeah. So it's just like, all right, keep making that, keep making that, keep making that. Yeah. So they're using the immune system by making you think it's pork. That's insane.
that's cool.
Yep. Some medical miracles nowadays also.
So it sounds like pigs should never have cancer then, right? If we
Ooh.
No, because it's in their bodies. Yeah.
no,
She could sue me.
It's got to be your dog.
Yeah. All right. That map. Take a look at that map, and we'll post this on the video. I found a very disturbing map of the, what would you call it? Where alpha gal syndrome.
Where not to live in the United States.
Pretty much. And
Oh,
unfortunately, we're
no.
right in it.
Oh no.
There's a massive cluster of red over the, like, I don't know what you want to call it. I get so confused about people's directions of the
Because you
country.
can't call it
the
Midwest.
center belt
Yeah.
of the portion of the country. I would call it the Midwest, but people in Ohio would be like, hey, we're Midwest.
We're Midwest too.
So, but mainly like Missouri and kind of fingered out from there.
Yep.
But dark red is a little scary.
And we're right in that.
I think my wife might have this because anytime she has red meat, she has an adverse reaction to it post eating it, but not in the way that would be hospitalization. But now that we had that expert on, that like it comes in different forms for everybody via symptoms and
Right.
reaction to it. So I don't know, something I think she should really look into. But
They do tests for it.
Yeah, how can you test for that?
Doctor can run a test for it. So that was one of the delays in getting it identified One was the fact that so many of these things were happening 24, 48 hours after they ate meat that it was hard to like draw it back to, hey, this is what caused the issue. But the other one was doctors were like, this is not really a thing. Like,
Right.
it's so rare. Nobody has this. So they wouldn't order their test for it because it would, to a certain point, I get what they're doing. It's unethical to order tests that you don't need, right?
What percent of people that have alpha-gal nationwide don't know they have alpha-gal?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They just change their diet and go, well, I can't have that anymore.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, would it affect you in other ways besides eating red meat?
As far as I'm aware, no.
Like you
it
wouldn't
is
just you
specifically-
wouldn't be lethargic or anything else. You would just
Nope.
have like okay because it's that enzyme or whatever.
Yeah, so it's reacting to the carbohydrate in the meat, which still is amazing to me that there's a carbohydrate in the meat. Like that's the one food I'm like, there's no carbs in that. No, there is.
Yeah.
Apparently there's carbs in everything. But there are 2 new species of tick that are carrying the alpha-gal syndrome. Obviously, there's Lone Star tick, which we've all known. Now there is the black-legged tick, which we do have in Kansas, and the western black-legged wood tick, which we do not have in Kansas. So, more things to be afraid of, I suppose. But Wichita is right on the western edge of that dark red.
Which is basically like 87 suspected cases or higher per county.
Yep. And I pulled a tick off me yesterday that had just bit me. It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes because I was in the field. And then I pulled one off my head later in the day. That little bugger had been there for a while, but he never attached. So it's tick season. Get ready.
Isn't that the weirdest sensation though when you have like this active thing on you?
Yep.
You're like, well, let me get. You go, but I have to. It's a controlled pull. I have to get it all of it, otherwise part of it stays on me. But then just the odd sensation of that pricking, like one time I go, I'm one of those weirdos that's like, I feel like I got a zit on my leg. Oh, that's gonna be fun to get later. You know what I mean? And then you investigate and you go, oh my, what is that? What's going
Yeah.
on? What's happening?
So I couldn't even feel it. It was so small. I just saw it.
Mm.
And luckily, they have those legs that stick out a little bit. And you're like, okay, I know what that is. I also don't like how hard they are to kill.
Oh man,
That's
very
an
hard,
annoyance. Yeah.
Mm.
sitting there like just trying
Like
to.
if you're a bug and I squeeze you like this, you die.
You should.
They don't.
You gotta
Like-
get like needle nose pliers and just curr.
I get them between my fingernails.
It's like when you step on an ant when you're a kid and you go, why won't you die?
you don't
It just
understand.
keeps running. Oh my gosh.
All right. Couple of Meat Matter stuff, and then when Allie gets back in here, I want her. I think I have a good bet for her and I for who does better shooting this weekend. We just have to nail down some of the particulars. This is from Brett, and it's Sandhill Express. It's Nebraska meat packers call on feds to deregulate the industry.
I love that this was sent by Brett because I would argue this is a very controversial thing. This gets into just politics on both sides and who are you going to align with, and if Brett wants it on the podcast, we can discuss whatever.
We can have it on the podcast. But so this is the Clean Water Act, Salmonella Inspections, and Equity in Packers and Stockyards Act are just a few of the regulations that the industry lobbying group, the Meat Institute, is calling for Trump administration to pull back. On January 27th, Meat Institute President Juliana Potts penned a letter to the White House providing the new administration with strategies to reduce burdensome regulations and address meat prices for consumers. In the letter, she blames the previous administration for inflation, which she claims was caused by increased regulation in the food industry. She also targets increased worker protections against discrimination, which she claims are part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Now, just from reading that second paragraph, as I was initially looking at this article, I was like, I think I could make some assumptions about this author. And the way the rest of the article is written tells me that I was very much correct. Based on what they propose, the path to lower food prices is exploiting child labor and engaging in sharecropping production models. Austin Frerick, antitrust expert and author of Barron's, Money, Power, and the Corruption of America's Food Industry, tells Sentient. They're grab-bagging words in the moment to fit their deregulatory race to the bottom. I mean, obviously, and I know we try and stay out of politics for the most part, but regulation of over-regulation of any industry is something that generally is not going to agree with certainly my political or economic viewings, and mostly of Walton's as well. If Trump takes the advice of the lobbying group, which touts its representation of meat packers and processors that account for more than 95% of U.S. output of processed meats, experts do not agree that prices will necessarily go down. According to Food and Water Watch staff attorney Emily Miller, the real issue at play is consolidation in the industry. We know that real cost of high food prices in the country is not inflation or the cost of regulatory compliance, as the industry is claiming. It's corporate greed. No, we don't know that. That's a ridiculous comment.
I don't think they're wrong, though.
Everything is corporate greed then.
Oh, it is.
Everything is corporate greed.
It has a piece to play in all of it, but when they talk about consolidation, they're absolutely spot on.
Sure.
Because the industry is overregulated and it is consolidated and it doesn't function as a free market. And so I think both sides are right here. That's why I think it gets touchy, because the industry is consolidated and it's overregulated, and we want to make a change, but we're not willing to address all of it. So we have to address it all to make a difference. And when we address one side, what's ultimately going to happen is it's going to further enhance the consolidation, and it's going to hurt still. It then is corporate greed, because there's basically four or five players in each major market: beef, pork, chicken, and those 4 or 5 corporations in each market are going to benefit the most out of these changes, because they're not going to do it in a way that gives the little guy a leg up, because that little guy doesn't have a voice in this. All that lobbying money is coming from those big four.
Absolutely.
And so it's what's in their best interest, not industry as a whole. But it is treated as industry as a whole, quote unquote, because they own too much of the market.
Okay, but then it's on state associations like, Kansas AMP to be the ones to push back on that.
They don't have the resources.
Oh, okay, but they're gonna have to come up with something. It's not on the government to say, cut your legs out from underneath you, unless we want to get into antitrust.
It should be
monopoly laws. Unless we want to talk about that.
It should be on the representatives of the people who have higher agriculture producing states to know what their state needs. But there's too many things that go on for someone to, I think, get that hyper focused on one area. That's why as COVID was going on, and still to this day, there's still grant money that is flying out, and that's been their solution to things. Is everybody doesn't know exactly what to do, and we can't really make all these changes, so let's just throw money at the problem, and that's people's answer, and it doesn't work.
And when we had Stephen on the podcast, Stephen is one of our commercial salesmen, used to run a plant in Oklahoma. He was talking about how they were not helping each other, but when people were writing grants and getting denied for them, the actual answer was to be less specific on what you were going to do and have like almost less of a business plan, and just say, without this grant, our business will shut down. That was it. That was how you got granted a grant, or got a grant, awarded a grant. It wasn't by saying, we're going to use this to buy this new machine, which will allow us to open this new processing line, which we can sell for blah, blah, blah. It was just, without it, we're going to shut down, and you would get it. Absolutely insane. Totally insane. They also talk about how one of the things they're wanting to have pulled back is the inclusive competition and market integrity under the Packers and Stockyard Act. The rule, which went into effect in 2024, prohibits the adverse treatment of livestock producers and poultry growers based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, including pregnancy, sexual orientation, or gender identity, disability, marital status, or age. Isn't that already illegal? That's already illegal. You already cannot discriminate based on...
For the most part.
Yeah. So, whatever. I'm 100% fine with that being repealed or pulled back. The Meat Institute claims that this rule attempts to enshrine DEI concepts in the act. I think this is definitely a way of baiting Trump to act, Miller says. What they're really asking, pretty unabashedly, is for the ability to discriminate against other people for personal characteristics that have nothing to do with their business or the economy or anything that would have any sort of justification, which is pretty outrageous. That is not what they're asking to do. This is whatever. We're so far apart. It's unbelievable. All right. Do you have anything else to talk about on that one? Because if not, let's just move on. It's just.
I mean, I do, but I shouldn't.
Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere productive with that, so it's not worth talking about. And a gene found a link to obesity, and it's in both humans and Labrador retrievers. Now, I don't know if any of you have had a lab, but in general, they are highly food motivated and will continue to eat until they throw up. The only other dog I've ever seen do this was a Dalmatian who ate a bowl of mashed potatoes, and then we thought we killed it because it passed out as it was eating.
No.
It was eating, and it just went funk over, and we're like, oh no, and then it had just legitimately eaten itself into a coma.
That is amazing.
Anytime I pull a tick off me for the next couple of days, anytime a hair moves, I have to check it out. So that's what I was doing there. Dogs that are constantly hungry and prone to being overweight share a common bit of biology with some obesity-prone humans. The UK scientists have discovered identifying a genetic source of many Labradors and some people's tendency to overeat. By studying dogs, we've honed in on some interesting new biology here. She added that the discovery that owners of slim dogs are not morally superior. It's the same is true of slim people. If you have high genetic risk of obesity, you're prone to gaining weight unless you put a huge effort into not doing so. I would say that pretty much everybody has to put a huge effort into not getting fat, right? Because if we eat and do nothing and we eat poorly, we're all going to get fat.
What?
There's some people who take, a diet is a huge amount of effort.
If you don't exercise some level of self-control, you get dopamine when you eat. You will just continue. I don't think it's natural for people to not, you have to exhibit some level of self-control.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't love a good dopamine hit?
With that in mind, your little white chocolate melt things have got to go. Yeah, they can't stay here anymore.
Those are awful. You can have those.
Oh, I like those. Yeah, but you also hate the ice cream that's in there.
Tastes disgusting.
Those are
once again, that's a fit person's. You don't know what you're talking about. As someone that's been heavy, don't even say you're not fat now.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
My entire life.
I love Edie's. I love good ice cream as well, but there is a place for that. That's a McDonald's hamburger. What do you mean?
Edie's or
Eddie's, whatever.
I don't know.
Are you saying it's not good?
It's not like the top tier ice cream.
You're so thin you can't even
What's your
pronounce
best
it
ice cream?
correctly.
If you're going to go grocery store, go for like a Talenti or something.
Oh, wow.
No, come on.
That's high.
Those-
I don't even know. What
Can't do
you're
those. They're
talking
not big
about.
enough. Because if you're really going to go
What are you
after it, you need a
talking
whole
about?
quart of something.
Yes.
Tillamook.
Where's
Tillamook.
very good, but it's stupid expensive, and Eddie's is delicious. It's slow churned.
Do you have a place you go to for ice cream in town? Do you have a recommendation there?
Dylan's.
Just don't see. I mean, you're so thin, you don't even
Actually-
have a gluttonous
Yeah.
location.
If we're really getting into it, screw ice cream. It's custard, and going to Andy's
Do you-
or
There you go.
have you been to Andy's? Andy's
I have been to
that
Andy's,
is,
yeah.
in my opinion, that is the pinnacle.
Do you remember in the 90s? How old you weren't even alive practically, and how old were you in the 90s? What year were you born?
89.
Okay. Frozen yogurt wasn't the healthy option. They're
yeah.
It's not even ice cream, it's frozen yogurt. Yogurt's good for you.
Nice.
That was legitimately what they sold it and branded it as, the healthy ice cream alternative.
There's been a wave of stores over the years that just keep popping into small little strip malls
Yep.
of this is the latest frozen yogurt pop-up store.
And it's all bad for you.
It's all bad for
Yeah.
you. It's good.
Because it's got tons of sugar. All right. But they picked out one gene in particular called DENND1B that was associated with a higher body mass in Labradors. And when they searched through a library of genetic information from thousands of humans, they discovered that the same gene was associated with a higher body mass in people. No one suspected that the gene had anything to do with obesity, said Dr. Raffin. The gene interferes with a brain signaling pathway that helps regulate our appetite. So basically, you eat enough brain or your stomach sends a signal to your brain and says, we're full. We don't need to eat anymore. People with this DEN1B gene tend to not have that communication happen at the same rate as other people. I'm 100% sure I have that. I'm if you check me for DEN1B, it's probably like the most common gene I have.
I'm gonna look. I probably
I
can't do this
have
on the fly,
mine.
but I have my full genome.
Yeah, I have my 23andMe. I could look to see if I have DEN1B.
Did you delete your 23andMe data?
No.
Have you heard all of what's going on there?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's too like deleting my data is not going to do anything.
What are they doing with it?
It's being sold. 23andMe is going out of business, and they're going to sell all their information.
What?
They could.
They will.
What's the
Like,
giant?
They're going to.
What's the giant downside to all that?
Corporation then has all of your genetic information.
And then they're going to do
A
what?
big one would be insurance companies. So it might be harder for you to get insured because you have markers for cancer or whatever.
Sucker.
Now, it turned out that I had nothing. And I remember being somewhat disappointed.
Well, that's a positive then. You can
Right.
go, hey,
yeah,
look at
it was
mine.
fine. Yep.
Clean bill of health.
I'm clean. But I remember like it was a weird thing because that was at the point in my life where I was super healthy and like looking to continue that. And I thought like, oh, if I can get ahead of something, that would be awesome. And there was just like, nope, you're good.
I was listening to a video that we made like 5-6 months ago, and you were talking to me and Flip while we were grinding stuff, and you go like, just wait till 2019 John's back here in a month or two.
Yeah. And would you say that was 5 or 6 months ago?
Yeah. How's it?
I'm in better shape than I was 5 or 6 months ago.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So yeah, that is a good thing. But yeah, okay. So I don't really have anything else on the humans and Labradors are basically the same when it comes to eating, but
I pulled up my whole genome thing and searched for just DNN. Can't find anything.
you don't have
so
anything.
that
Okay, that's good. Was sea bass fat?
Is that a
he,
person?
He was healthy.
Do
He was. He would be fat if he was not controlled. Like, yeah.
Oh,
so
is that a
sea bass
dog?
was their older brother's dog that
Ah.
their mom basically took and became her surrogate child. She
Basically.
loved that dog.
Yeah.
And he was a huge black lab, like just long, tall, like everything. He was a big boy. He was a good looking dog. Yeah,
Mhm.
he was a good looking dog. All right, moving on to, or moving back to our bet for this weekend. Allie and I are shooting. I think what we've come up with is that whoever shoots more buys the other one a piece of art, whether it's wall art or a little statue, something like that.
More successful shots, right? Not just
more
shot
success,
more.
right? Correct. Yes, shoots down more
He's trying to get one over on you.
clays that the other one has to display in their house for a full year.
So any type of art.
Any type of
We're
art.
not like, oh, it's a wildlife or conservation
No,
thing. It's
it doesn't have to have
art.
anything to do.
Do
with
the,
Okay,
the
that's gonna be
George
interesting.
Costanza artwork where he's like looking
Now here's the
over his
problem.
arched back.
I am still trying to sell my house, so yes, but I can figure out ways around that. It can be hidden during showings.
It depends on how mean you want to be to each other. Like there are things I can think of you could do to her which would make her cringe, and things she could do to you which would make you
I'm
cringe.
sure
How
there
about
are.
a giant Michigan helmet on like as a fat head in your basement?
Michigan wouldn't be as bad as USC.
Ooh, well there you go.
That'd be
Now
worse.
we have the information we need.
Oh, I know what
Troy
I would do, hands
Polamalu.
down.
What would you do?
Something related to Notre Dame and how much they just suck, and I don't know. It would be derogatory against sports, Notre Dame, Commanders.
Yeah,
If you could
that's
put it
fair.
all in
That's
one,
fair.
I would do that.
Would you put the amount of national
We played for
titles
the
in there?
national championship. You guys didn't like. Would you finish 30 something?
I don't know, but
Okay.
the college sports don't even matter
Two
anymore.
different-
It's all
that's
a
so
rigged
true.
system.
No, that is so true. They've ruined college sports. Like
It literally has been.
NIL sounded like a good idea to people who wanted to be fair, right? Because it's bad that the NCAA gets all this money and the kids don't get any of it. But it's a better system than what's going on right now.
I'm
And the transfer portal. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
interjecting.
you're good. I'm done.
I think that the changes coming with the revenue sharing could help. Problem is, they were very loose on the revenue sharing. It's basically the max up to 22% of the max of anybody takes. So some schools, the small schools, are getting screwed. The large schools are it's not really hurting or affecting them all that much. They're like, whatever, we had that extra money anyways. But they're supposedly starting now going forward. You'll have to get paid out of that, and the money's going to be limited. And if you want an NIL deal, it's not just someone going, yeah, here's $5 million, come to our school. No, you have to have $5 million worth of value. They're supposedly setting up a board that will review those NIL deals.
So we're right back to the NCAA. There'll be so much
Sweet.
corruption in those
But-
boards.
Yeah, we'll go back to under the table payments,
Yep.
like there has been for the last how many decades. But it might help.
Yeah.
Might. I want it to help. I don't know.
I watched from Elway to Marino. It's at 30 for 30 on the 1983 draft or whatever it was them. And then Pony Express came on, and that's about SMU.
The
back in
death penalty.
The 80s,
Yeah.
how they got the death penalty. And they were doing stuff that
Everyone-
every other school was doing too. Like literally every other school was doing. They just got caught twice in a really short period of time.
Uh-huh.
There's always been athletes getting paid. There's got to be a system that's better than the NIL that doesn't require the NCAA to have or the athletic conferences to have a board to approve, because that's going to get corrupted like crazy. But I really do think you could let the NIL go if we didn't also have the transfer portal. The transfer portal, I think, is what's really
Yeah. If you locked them into contracts, had students sign contracts, have a salary cap, run. I mean, at this point, it's professional sports. Run it like the NFL.
And for the transfer portal thing, at least, if the coach that recruited you, either head coach or, offense or defensive assistant, depending on which side of the ball you're on, leaves or gets fired, you then can transfer with no penalty. But other than that, go back to what it
Yeah.
was.
I'd still even argue no, because you
Yeah,
want
no.
you want to get paid, you want to be a professional. Then let's do it.
Well, then
Let's-
that's
let's
not
go
fair.
with it.
That's not fair. Like, that's not teaching those kids a good lesson in my mind, at least. It's like, hey, you sign a contract and you're held to it, even though the person that brought you here also had a contract, and that's getting broken. So you're saying it's okay for us to do it. It's not okay for you to do it. So there has to be an out there in my mind. Has to be.
But why is that? Why is it any different than anything else in the rest of the world?
Because they're not rest of the world people. They're college students. We do treat them differently.
But we shouldn't.
No, we
Should
definitely should.
They're
sweet.
18 years old. Are they an adult?
No. An 18-year-old is not an adult. We
It
need
used to be
stop
enough
pretending
where
it
they
is.
would they'd get the scholarship, and then the $200,000+ establishment they go to is like for free. So then
Right.
that used to be
That
enough.
used to be the argument. But the good argument, in my opinion, against it is Andrew Luck. You're telling like a Stanford education is $100 and something thousand a year. It's huge.
Sure.
You're telling me that guy only brought in $100,000 a year to Stanford? You're joking. He brought in tens of millions of dollars a year to Stanford. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so, but we've treated college kids differently for years.
Because guys from like on K-State, they go to better schools, right?
Like, they leave for,
yeah,
like, a
they
bigger
leave for
school.
a better school
Uh-huh.
if they're that's just the ones that they showcase, right? But then Notre Dame, right? Then players sometimes if they're leaving, they
we
go
leave-
to they
yeah,
go to
we-
a lesser than school
We
sometimes.
lose
but
people all the time too. Yeah.
yeah, but it's usually from a like better players from K-State go to better schools, and then it's like usually like, oh, I didn't get the playing time at Notre Dame, let me go to a
Yeah.
less than school.
I mean, we lost some good players. There was that, what was his name? Aaron Taylor, defensive end. He went to Miami and then played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name. Okay. But we're way off topic
That
from,
USF
Yeah.
guy
from football
yeah.
here. All right. So I've got just a couple of wild card things from Instagram. Number one is that picture. Can you tell what that picture is
I mean, it looks like a shark.
with?
A one of those like special life raft things. I don't know.
Oh my
orange
good
thing?
Lord. No, that'd be horrifying if it was that big.
It looks like one of those like
It's not.
pop-up life raft.
I know what
ones.
you're talking about. It's not. If it was one of those, that is a 80-foot shark, and I'm never
Okay.
going near the ocean again. That's a great white that a drone caught a picture of. That's an octopus riding on the back of the shark.
Wow. That's
What is
insane.
going on in the ocean? We've got, they've had videos now of chimpanzees using spears. Sea creatures are like agreeing, like, hey,
Today's
let me
story
catch a
getting attacked.
ride. Is there ocean Uber?
Hey, if everybody's got to make it through the day.
I don't think we have any idea what's going on our planet outside of, not even with humans, but especially in the wild that kingdom.
Bees are medical labs developing cures for cancer.
Bees are
Like-
curing cancer. There's a lot of weird things going on. All right, so I had no idea this is going on. This is apparently the upper Michigan has gone through like a historically bad ice storm, and this is nuts. It looks like Armageddon. Like this guy's trying to drive through a road, and there are just down trees everywhere, and everything looks like it's got 3 to 4 inches of ice.
Mhm.
I mean, that's going to cause a major issue for a long time. Kind of looks pretty, though.
If you had nothing else to do, it'd be fun to go out with your truck or an ATV,
Yeah.
some chains and chainsaws, and just start clearing.
But I'm sure there are other things that they are, more pressed on. And then the last one isn't really a wild animal, but if you think my dog's big, that's my dog's breed.
Is that real?
That's real. And that one, that's a Boerboel, and he's got to be like 240 to something.
I was gonna say that. I mean, that's also a child.
It's a child,
but
look
to
at
me,
the,
it looks like that's like a 300-pound
yeah,
dog.
look at the thickness of its chest and head.
I think it could swallow that child.
It definitely could swallow that child.
It's
And do you see the chain around its neck? So they used to do that
That's
with
just
pit
ain't no
bulls.
chain. That's some bling. That's not like a.
They used to do that with pit bulls. They'd wrap heavy chains around their necks, and just everywhere they went, they'd have like an extra 15 pounds on them. It would just like build up an insane amount of muscle. I imagine they've done that with this dog because its chest is legitimately bigger than mine, it looks like.
Yeah,
So
that's insane.
how would you like that dog to come running down the driveway at you? Mine at least looks somewhat goofy, right? Like he's a little goofy looking. He's big and kind of intimidating, but there's nothing goofy about that dog. It's just scary.
I would absolutely panic. Even like when like your dog, like when I've been over to your house and like he's coming out, and if you're like not there, I'm like hesitant and I'm like kind of turning
Yeah.
sideways to look a little smaller and like just be like ah. But I would have a heart attack and lose my mind.
My dog likes you though. The
Yeah.
times you stop by the house, he's always out there and like happy.
But he's
Happy to see you.
still a big dog.
Yeah.
not just,
No,
yeah.
I say it all the time. Like I'm not going to be if he charges down the driveway at someone, they don't realize he's tied up. If somebody shot my dog while he was doing that, I'd be devastated. But I'd understand.
Yeah, coming onto my property and shooting my dog. You got it.
Is he-
I think I would react like I'd be like, I get it. A huge animal is coming directly at you with obviously not good intent because he's not one of those dogs like, oh yeah. Like he's coming down, barking, his tail is all the way up.
Just avoid eye contact.
Yeah, that helps a little
I
bit.
act like he
but-
doesn't exist. Like,
What if
oh
it's
my God.
somebody who was about to do a home invasion on you, and then they get attacked by your dog, and now they sue you for getting
Yeah,
hurt?
It's always
wow.
a possibility.
What
It's
a
always
world.
a possibility. All right. You got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. We will see you guys next week. This is probably our second to last podcast that we are doing at this studio. So the next one will most likely be the last one. There might be one more.
Potentially.
Maybe.
You never
we'll
know.
see. But we will make a decent sized deal out of the last podcast that we have here. We'll see you guys.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for checking out the Meatgistics podcast. To shop everything but the meat, head on over to waltons.com. To get your meat processing questions answered by experts and enthusiasts alike, head on over to our online community at meatgistics.com. Waltons, everything but the meat.